Please remember to like the video and also consider subscribing.
Now the news. Labour Minister Pernell Charles Jr. is to visit Canada next week to undertake a review of the Farm Work Programme. Foreign Affairs Minister Kamina Johnson-Smith made the disclosure while responding to concerns from Jamaicans in Canada at a town hall meeting last night. The concerns come amidst recent claims of victimization by some Jamaican farm workers in that country. Mrs. Johnson-Smith assured that the government remains committed to addressing the issues with the program. She said the scope of the problem is being assessed by both Jamaican and Canadian authorities. There is deepening concern from advocacy groups about how the Jamaican government treats migrants following the swift repatriation of a group of Haitians who turned up on the island's shores earlier this week. The groups Jamaicans for Justice, Stand Up for Jamaica, Freedom Imaginaries and Global Charity for All have expressed concern that the decision to send back the 35 Haitian nationals who landed in Portland by boat on Sunday, October 15, was hasty. The group was the third batch of migrants to turn up in Jamaica this year, 2 of which were repatriated. Stand Up for Jamaica's Executive Director, Carla Galata, said the move is unacceptable. She said the government's forced return of the Haitians to Haiti, where they face a real risk of persecution, torture or other serious or irreparable harm, amounts to refoulement. Ms. Galata claimed that the Haitians were not given the chance to see an attorney. She urged the government to meet with the concerned advocacy groups to discuss international standards for the protection of migrants to prevent the risk of a report being sent to the United Nations Security Council for action to be taken against Jamaica. Another of the inmates who escaped the Black River lockup in St. Elizabeth in June was recaptured yesterday. About 2:30 p.m., officers from the St. Catherine North Division conducted an intelligence-driven operation in Red Ground Trial Heights with the objective of apprehending 32-year-old Kenneth Omari Stewart. Stewart is a construction worker from Beacon Hill, St. Catherine, who was previously charged with murder. During the operation, he was discovered in a dwelling with the mother of his child. Head of the St. Catherine North Police, Senior Superintendent Howard Chambers, says the woman remains in custody and is being investigated as she faces charges of harboring a fugitive. Meanwhile, head of the St. Elizabeth Police, Acting Superintendent Coolidge Minto, urged the remaining men to turn themselves in. Minister of Agriculture Floyd Green has assured that there will be an adequate supply of poultry and pork products this Christmas season. This as he noted that the ministry will also be closely monitoring the industries for any change in the coming months. The minister gave the update while speaking with reporters on the sidelines of a ceremony in observation of World Food Day at Newell High School in St. Elizabeth. He said he has asked the ministry to put a team in place to continuously monitor weekly production. He added that if there needs to be any form of supplementing, then the ministry will implement this. As the Statistical Institute of Jamaica wraps up the census, Director General Carol Coy has again urged Jamaicans to fully engage with census workers. This as the Institute seeks to conclude the exercise, which has been delayed several times for various reasons. The census was initially scheduled to be executed in April 2021. However, with the onset of the pandemic, it was postponed to 2022, with data collection getting underway in September of that year. Further issues with census takers led to a December 2022 deadline being missed. Speaking at Staten's recent quarterly press briefing, the Institute's Director General noted that the data collection process is still underway, but should be wrapped up soon. A grand jury in Connecticut in the United States has returned a 7-count indictment charging a 32-year-old Jamaican man residing in that state with fraud and money laundering. The charges stemmed from Howard Chambers' alleged participation in a sweepstakes scam that defrauded elderly victims across the U.S. of millions of dollars. Chambers was arrested early yesterday and appeared before U.S. Magistrate Judge Maria Garcia, where he entered pleas of not guilty to the charges and was released on a $150,000 US bond into home detention with electronic monitoring pending trial. According to the U.S. Attorney's Office, the indictment alleges that since at least 2018, Chambers and others used a sweepstakes scheme to induce primarily elderly victims to provide them with money. As part of the scheme, scammers notified victims, typically by telephone, that they won a publisher's clearinghouse sweepstake. The victims were told that in order to collect their winnings, they must pay fees and taxes. Following the initial phone call, Chambers and others allegedly mailed the victims fake documents, including a winning notification letter from Publishers Clearinghouse and a letter from the Internal Revenue Service stating that the victims were required by law to pay taxes on their winnings. Victims sent cash, money orders, or checks through the mail to various addresses throughout the U.S. The indictment also alleges that Chambers and others moved money received from victims through various accounts in different companies' names, including a limited liability company registered in Connecticut with Chambers as its managing member and agent. The indictment charges Chambers with 1 count of conspiracy to commit mail fraud and wire fraud, 5 counts of mail fraud, and 1 count of conspiracy to commit money laundering. Each of these offences carries a maximum term of imprisonment of 20 years.
The country's major hospitals are experiencing overcrowding and longer wait times due to a surge in persons seeking care for dengue, influenza, other viral illnesses, and traumatic injuries. The University Hospital of the West Indies, Cornwall Regional, Spanish Town, and Savannah-Lamar Public Hospitals are the worst impacted, with high numbers of patients awaiting beds. As a result, the Ministry of Health is advising citizens to visit public hospitals only if necessary. It says the overcrowding issue is impacting all 4 regional health authorities. The ministry notes that there are more than 150 admissions to hospitals currently that are dengue-related. It says as at this morning, there were more than 260 patients awaiting beds across 18 public health facilities. While noting that hospitals always experience challenges with patients seeking care at this time of the year, the ministry knows that it has put measures in place to ease the burden on the health system. These include extended opening hours for selected health centers. And there are significant healthcare concerns in Jamaica, but the government is making massive investments to address them. This, according to Prime Minister Andrew Holness. Responding to questions from Jamaicans in Canada at a town hall meeting last night, Mr. Holness said prior to his administration, Jamaica's health system had not seen any significant investment in over 30 years. He said the current administration has changed that. The taxi driver seen in a viral video overcharging a female student has been arrested and charged for assault, as well as prosecuted for various transport breaches and fired from his job. A statement from the Transport Authority said it strongly condemns the action of the taxi operator who spat at and verbally abused the girl. This after the schoolgirl refused to pay the full fare being demanded by the driver. Managing Director of the Transport Authority, Ralston Smith, said a meeting was held with the owner of the vehicle, who subsequently fired the driver. Mr. Smith added that the driver was warned for prosecution for various offences, including not having a badge. The authority is reminding operators that children, students in uniform, physically disabled, and senior citizens pay half of the approved fare. Any deviation will result in prosecution under the road traffic regulation, and the offender may be fined up to $100,000 upon conviction. Commuters are being encouraged to report taxi drivers who overcharge them to the Transport Authority. Meantime, the Transport Authority has prosecuted over 100 public passenger vehicle operators for various offences, including overcharging fares, since the start of this week. Mr. Smith said the drivers were issued summonses during island-wide operations conducted by the authority's agents. And the route inspectors at the Transport Authority have been instructed to utilize only workers from a list of approved companies to provide towing service for vehicles seized for breaches of the Transport Authority Act. Chairman of the authority, Owen Ellington, explained that participating wrecking companies are expected to abide by a fee structure which has been agreed on by the relevant stakeholders. Mr. Ellington was speaking against the background of a major concern raised by members of the Public Passenger Vehicle Steering Committee about apparent racketeering among wrecker operators. He noted that the authority met with the police and stakeholders from the steering committee. An appeal was made to wrecking companies willing to participate as contract operators with the authority. Mr. Ellington said frank discussions were held with them and an appropriate towing fee structure was worked out. Mr. Ellington noted that under the new guidelines, towing must be authorized by senior officers or supervisors, adding that the list of companies will be published using various media channels. The chairman indicated that the authority will be very strict in this regard and stated that he has instructed Managing Director Ralston Smith to ensure that any inspector who goes outside of the approved list and summons a wrecker to tow a citizen's vehicle will be required to stand the cost of the service. Advocacy group Jamaicans for Justice, JFJ, has appealed to the Director of Public Prosecutions to have the Maria Dean case, which has been delayed several times since 2014, moved to Kingston in a bid to expedite it. 31-year-old Dean lost his life while in police custody on a marijuana-related charge in Montego Bay, St. James. The initial trial date for the officers charged was set for September 21, 2017. However, the case has faced a series of postponements, with at least 10 delays occurring between 2017 and September 2022. Executive Director of JFJ, Michael Jackson, expressed frustration at the continuous delays, which she said have caused Dean's mother to lose trust in the justice system.
Jamaicans for Justice, we are concerned, we are outraged, we're appalled that we're seeing yet another delay in the Mario Dean case. His mother, Mercy Fraser, she has been attending every single court date, and to have the matter being delayed year after year, it has cost her to lose faith in the system.
The executive director said the inadequacies in the administration need to be addressed to eliminate the delay in court cases.
I think it's unfortunate that you have matters languishing before the courts for an extended period of time. And I think the state and the agents of the state need to really assess what are the underlying factors that lead to these types of inadequacies in the system so that they can so be addressed.
Ms. Jackson said the most recent court hearing on September 25 resulted in yet another adjournment, pushing the trial to next February. She appealed to the DPP to have the matter moved to Kingston, where she believes it will receive the attention and resources necessary for a fair and swift trial.
No, we're very cognizant that the matter is still before the courts. This is more than the 10th delay that we're experiencing. So what we're doing, we're calling on the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, wherein the matter could be transferred from the St. James Circuit Court to the Home Circuit Court, with the hope that after a decade of waiting for justice for her son, she can have this matter resolved in a timely manner. I think justice would be served in that way because we do have a right to ensure that where victims are concerned, they can see justice being realized.
Ms. Jackson also called on the Justice Minister to review the jury system, which she said is one of the contributing factors that caused the delay in Dean's case.
We're calling on the state through the Minister of Justice, the Honorable Delroy Chuck, to look how we can do a broad review of the jury system.
Jamaicans for Justice Executive Director Michael Jackson. Over $330 million Jamaican dollars has been spent on the ongoing rural electrification project benefiting 2,237 residents across the island. The project is being implemented by the Ministry of Science, Energy and Telecommunications through the Jamaica Social Investment Fund, JSIF. Since the project's inception, 19 communities across 6 parishes have benefited from completed house wiring, pole line upgrades, and new pole line construction. Among the communities which benefited are Jonestown, Standpike, Steertown, Anoto Bay, Monique, and Cheswick. Another 13 communities will benefit in the upcoming months. Work is now underway in an additional 6 communities where 750 households will be wired over the next 3 months. The Rural Electrification Project aims to significantly increase the number of residents across the island who have regularized their electricity connections. The Newell High School in St. Elizabeth will be the first school under the newly expanded School Garden program launched by the Ministry of Agriculture. Portfolio Minister Floyd Green said the initiative sets out to foster and encourage food security across the island schools.
We are crafting a new face of food. And since I'm at Newell High School, I think this would be the best place for us to embark on a new expanded school gardening program. We need more of our schools to be able to feed themselves. It's very important in food security that our schools have an active school garden, and importantly, our children at the earliest possible time are introduced to practical elements of agriculture, not the theory.
The minister said that both primary and secondary schools will be targeted under the program.
We're going to be targeting our primary and high schools, and the Ministry of Agriculture is going to work with them to expand the school gardening project. So one, we're going to be looking, of course, on our vegetable lines and trying to ensure that we can input some vegetable production into the schools. We're going to be looking at poultry because it's very important that they have the protein. We're going to be looking at more hydroponic systems, working with Jamaica Forage. We're going to be looking at dairy because, again, we want to see more of our children consuming milk. And in order to expand that consumption, then we have to put the programs in the schools to drive that milk production. And we're going to be focusing a lot on our fruit trees. So we're going to be doing some fruit trees lines.
Agriculture Minister Floyd Green, he was speaking at the National Ceremony and Expo of World Food Day at the Newell High School in St. Elizabeth yesterday. The event was held under the theme, Water is Life, Water is Food, Leave No One Behind. The Jamaica Fire Brigade is reporting an increase in fires due to the use of lithium-ion batteries. These types of batteries are used in electronic devices such as vehicles, cellular phones, computers, and digital cameras. As the society continues to become more digitally reliant, the Fire Brigade is seeking to raise awareness about protective measures in cases of fire, including those caused by digital devices. Speaking at a ceremony to launch the Fire Brigade's Fire and Life Safety Awareness Week campaign under the theme Fire Safety in a Digital Society, Brigade Commissioner Stuart Beckford urged persons to use their devices safely.
So it's very important that we all pay attention to the message that we bring, which is one of encouraging you to use your device, but do so safely. We have had incidents of fires occurring because of persons inappropriately charging their devices and so on. So we want to educate. We're not here to frighten anybody because we know that technology, is no longer, if we're on the super highway of information technology, we are on it. Cruising at about 80 kilometers per hour, but there's still room for expansion. And I'm pretty sure with what the government has in store in terms of connectivity to our schools and other institutions, there will be an explosion in the use of these devices. So it's important that we take the message to the people and to encourage them to be safe.
Brigade Commissioner Stuart Beckford. Fire and Life Safety Awareness Week runs from October 22 to 28 and will involve workshops, symposiums, expositions, face-to-face community meetings, and electronic media engagements.